Alright, everyone. It's your boy, the Kings, Astra, Lelouch, whatever that you want to call me. We're doing it. It's help mode. I am really interested in doing it and learning about it, mainly because not only can I say I'm learning more about the game and I'm getting better at the game itself because of this, but I'm also establishing another high level of play across this game. Rather than just being a top tier waiver, I am a top tier waiver and a good person that runs hell mode. And I guess it's easiest to just start off with what build I'm using. And in a nutshell, it's a hybrid build. It's a half hero, half town archer, having good items for both is kind of paramount, I guess. I don't really have the greatest of explanations for it. I've been learning under great tutelage from one of the people inside of NVL, and it's working wonders right now. We'll start off with Town Archers. I'm using a double uh double fire damage, crit damage bow, and no E line, Town Archer rune, fire damage rune, with an accessory that is flying damage, critical chance, and uh, hmm, fire damage, critical chance, flying damage. So it's a 3 out of 3, but to make it even better, it's a 4 out of 4 because it's a CDE, which is one of our first CDEs on the build. And if we look at it closer, we have a lot more CDEs throughout the rest of the build as well. Uh, we'll just work our way up and work our way across. Flying Orcs, they have a very middle tier accessory, but they're the ones that has my D-Stun Slow Sword. That has 2 high quality attack speed runes, and then I have a bracelet that is stun, knockback, +1 summon. But obviously, knockback doesn't work with them, so they aren't really that high tier of a person. Agility Orb like normal. I have a I think I swap over a lot of items when it comes to this build. I have a stun attack speed. No, it's not a stun attack speed. It's a stun attack speed slow sword that I use on slingers, and then an accessory that is CDE, stun chance, nothing more other than just attack speed runes. Mechanical Ram has stun knockback on his sword with a damage E line, just sort of helpful to help. Knockback stun slow on the accessory with attack speed runes and hero damage, so he's helpful and nice and neat and all that stuff. Zeus kind of just has CDEs. He has his Thunder Orb for the bonus attack speed to get out more stuns. And then I have him with 1 stun line in CDE. You'd want 2 stun lines in CDE, and or optimally 2 stun lines and a attack speed line. Because the accessory, I have attack speed stun slow, critical damage E line, so he is running a CDE just for the CDE benefit. Dorothy is actually against the grain from what it should be. I am lucky enough to have a double knockback slow CDE, so that's her staff. Her accessory instead is a stun attack speed slow, so it's a lot more slow. +1 summon accessory could be more advantage here if I got another double stun +1, but that would be going to uh that would, I feel like, go to Flying Orcs first, so that way they can have a double stun accessory rather than me and having Dorothy. And that way both get their +1 summons and both just have more skeletons to take more hits. Well, more skeletons for Dorothy on the ground, more Flying Orcs in the air. You're winning and losing because of its at the end point, just a little bit of a numbers game from what it felt like. Goblin, I have really good items for him for Hell mode. I have a knockback chance, fire damage, attack speed, CDE that I thought about using for waving just in case I wanted another CDE without tower runes and to like free up a little bit of flexibility so like I could put on a 4 out of 4 damaging item on someone without having to worry about a CDE and then vice versa. So his hammer's really good. His accessory is a double knockback slow, but it's lightning mastery rather than CDE compared to Dorothy's staff. Plenty capable item. I like it. It works. Like the build works. Angels have kind of the standard fare. Attack speed, damage reduced with a CDE line, and then a critical damage, flat damage, damage reduced with another CDE line. So her items for Hell mode are much more valuable than what the standard could be. Dark Hunter is fairly basic. However, my Dark Hunter's bow is a DCD CDE, as you can see. Damage line, or damage rune, hero damage rune, just because it's one of the few places to fully utilize it. And then I also have I put Sarah's accessory, which is it just has a flat line in as a CDE to double proc him. Yeah, and it's literally just cooldown E. It helps him to be double proc, which helps in the cycle of the proc order. As you can see, my current proc order is going to improve as the build and the run go on. And eventually, you'll be able to see that sometimes I correct it, sometimes I don't. I have a attack speed cooldown flat CDE with +1 slash. Lightning damage makes it kind of a 4 out of 4, especially for this type of build. Accessory is just a slow CDE. You could argue about upgrading it just for that little extra bit of damage. And Sandor was just that critical. Necromancer, DCD with skill duration, DCD with skill duration. Yeah, he's pretty standard. It's the standard fanfare. This was the more optimal choice, and we slowly figured it out throughout time of like the first run we got was a little under 200 billion, and we're like, well, ground's bad. And why is ground so bad? Well, I'm only getting one singular proc for Dark Ice Wizard. Well, we can probably fix that. And so we did. We added a DCD accessory, one that I had hoarded on Elizabeth, so that way I can start using her. However, now it's on him. I might rune it up to make it more attack speed runes, but I need about like 20 of them, if I had to guess. It's a lot of attack speed runes that are needed to improve this build from its current spot to its potential. You put this in someone else's hands that know what they're doing, as even to a better knowledge than myself, the build becomes that much better, and it just explodes. It just that much better, and there's so much improvement to be had with this build. I'm just happy that we've found a good starting spot to roll with. And then Solar, CDE, damage reduced staff, that's actually a 4 out of 4 because the critical chance and the cooldown to help with her ability. Ice Meteor to help with some crowd control. And then damage, attack speed, +1 summon, which could go on Dorothy, but the CC is better than the CDE, and I'd rather not try to get rid of that for, let's say, who is it called? Oh, Barracks. And take off the runes, throw on the tower rune, and then help out that way. It's not a priority. It's an item that eventually I'll get another one that's good too. And then stun, cold damage, damage reduced for 0. Staff is more damage reduced. He's just meant to live and take a couple of blows. He's nothing too crazily fancy. And then just more tower runes. Thornworm gets attack speed, CDE, more critical damage, critical chance, CDE. He is just Thornworm is there meant to be just like kind of free damage. As much as I can say it's free damage, it's just some sort of damage. Frozen Tower, CDE, CDE attack speed, very basic items. Barracks, +1 summon CDE, and then damage reduced CDE. This one was on Solar beforehand, but we switched around a couple of items just to make it work that much easier, and it paid dividends. I mean, 25 CDE are in the build total at all times. Or was it 24 that we did with this run? I kind of forget. I'm looking back at the build and I'm noticing a couple of holes. Oh yeah, no, it is 25. Yeah, because we're missing the one on Hunter right now as I look at the build, and the 2 on Thornworm. So yeah, we do run 25 with this. And we did sacrifice a couple of boxes to do it. And now you think that boxes are the end-all be-all when it comes to this game and the gambling addiction that a person may have when it comes to, you know, rolling said boxes for items. Man, last night, or whenever we did the run, got the boxes, and sat there for a second. We got the first one within the first 300. And now, if you know anything about Fastral and his luck when it comes to just specifically Tower Runes, Town Archer Runes, I have bajillions upon bajillions of. Like, I finished last night with about 10, and I had 11 beforehand. And I still burnt up 2 Town Archer Runes, maybe by accident. Whoopsies. Uh, anyways, for me, like, Town Archer Runes are nothing. They're pieces of candy that I eat for a snack. If they were ever to be a real thing, I'd enjoy them. Blew through, got my two tower runes, so instead of being stuck at 23, we were be able to at 25. Now all I have to do is farm beginner for like a day straight, and I might get enough attack speed runes. But other than that, it's pretty simple. I very much enjoy the run that I had. It The build worked. I felt enjoyment about playing it. So when I did play it, it didn't feel like it's just like farming, in my opinion, where you're stuck there and aren't getting results, aren't getting results, aren't getting results. And sure, the defense number is going up, and that's always a good thing. But when I'm not spotting any of the items that I need, and that list of getting items is getting smaller and smaller as the days go by, it's sometimes draining. It's the same reason why I disenjoy farming expert dungeon. Because yeah, you can get good items out of the expert dungeon. You can get tonnage runes, cooldown runes, damage percentages, uh, the Elizabeth percent chance to summon Kraken, which is one of the ones that I am also looking for to try out Elizabeth for myself. And it's kind of one of those things that I sit back, I breathe, I kind of just smile and wave, and I don't know. During the run of this and playing along with it, I felt more enjoyment about playing this game than I have in a long time. Probably the last 2 pure times of enjoyment that I will say off the top of my head that I remember would be the tier 1 push that I had recently, where you come back from however much down, where you're passive 90 or half the season at that point, down a couple of hours as well, come back, take tier 1, and then this hell mode run. Uh, there's often jokes when I first started that, oh, Astro will never become Hell Mode Pro. quote from Lave because Hell mode does not, or you cannot have GP carry in Hell mode. Joke was on him though, because I was able to slowly build an inventory worth of items, grow the knowledge about the game, and then with the proper guidance, I was able to actually do a full run. Uh, Made me super excited at the end of this, and we're just gonna slowly progress through it all. We're gonna see how it rolls, and I'm super excited for it. And there's more things in the game that I am going to enjoy as well, and not just one thing or the other, but but yeah, I don't know. It's very high tier. I don't know. Very high ceiling that I have with this build. And if as long as I'm consistent in learning about it, I can probably consistently get 500 to 700 billion because I'll start to go I'll start to ease up and I won't do it like how we did it this time where every small little hitch step that we saw and misplay that I made where it became, oh, panic, need to use the power up. Panic, use the power up. And you'll see that later in the run, but during the first part of it, especially once I move it down to 1x to help myself out and make the run slower, especially in this moment, it's learning my proc pattern for myself, doing better for myself, and trying to get the realization between all of it. It was a highly enjoyable run, and it makes you learn more about the game. I cannot, I can't be innocent about any of it. It's all good. It's enjoyable. I have so much work to do when it comes to it though. And you know what? Just like everything, one foot forward at a time in order to get progression, and the more progression that you grow, the better that you'll get at whatever sort of hobby, lifestyle, or goal that you want to have. And then another main thing for me is that I have my own personal goals, and that's kind of what I was planning on blabbing about during the middle section of this before it starts getting um in the polite, not verbally crude way, before everything hits the fan and everything catches on fire, and I'm just sitting there, saying this is fine. As most of you may know, like in Plebbot, I've talked about it from time to time that I work on writing in my pastime. And a large part about this story has been a long process that's just been slowly marinating for what feels like forever. Like, I probably came up with the original design and concept of this character in maybe 2016. So the character himself is probably close to, uh, I'd like to say 10 years old at this point. Was I? No, because it was 2016 has been 10 years ago. I would be still, nope, I wouldn't have had a phone, so it's not 2016. So would it have been 2018? Because I also didn't have a phone for the Super Bowl of Rams Pats and the very low scoring affair that was. So I would have it 2018. But I didn't make the character right away, so it would be 2019. Actually, probably be middle of the 2019 or middle of 2019 is when the original concept of the main character, surprise, surprise, Astral, got made. And the original concept was actually kind of funny because he was this busted, broken character of extreme magnitude levels of power. And we're talking like he's stronger than Superman, he's faster than teleportation, he has ways to get around being insta killed, he can't get erased from history, yada yada yada. And I kept seeing more and more things on media that would counter him. I'm like, well, now he has this thing, and now he has this thing, and now he has this thing. And eventually everyone was like, okay, this is a broken character, so we're either not going to let him in or you can't use the busted abilities. And I'm like, yeah, like, I'm not going to use the busted abilities. That seemed fair. Uh, and also, now we're at the point of I've been on 1x speed, and we will be on 1x speed for the rest of the run. I, again, like I said earlier, 1x speed, perfectly fine. I'm not going to go too fast when it comes to this run, and probably also in future runs, I will probably be going at 1x speed at around the 50 billion mark, just because I can sit down and enjoy the game. I'm having a fun time with the run, and in order to make sure that I don't mess it up too badly and or learn proc timings better, it gives me more window of opportunity to learn. And it kind of has 2/3 of its own cycles, which are super fun. The and then the point spread, as we were kind of witnessing earlier before I started the rant, we get up to about 715 each. Then we uh, lower fire resistance, and then we go into stun knockback, because having the knockback from Goblin and Dorothy helps. Having the knockback from uh, Mech Ram helps. Having the stun from Angel, well, Angels doesn't have a stun line. But having the stun lines that are on Flying Orcs and all of the other ones also helps out just that much extra. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning here, so I'm gonna be tired for a while. We have, yeah, stun, knockback. Those were the first two big priorities, and then again, I paused on stun to get a little bit of slow. No, I paused on knockback to finish or to get slow. Finish slow or finish knockback. Finish slow. Then I did freeze resist, because Dark Ice Wizard was doing almost next to nothing on his freezing attempts, and same thing with Solar and Zero. They were getting low amounts of freezing too, so it always helps to be able to do that and get that done. And then usually watch for your Angels, Whites. Once Angels start taking a lot of excess damage is when you want to level that lightning resistance. I just cut the corner on that and leveled them right away. And then, after cutting their corner, you just start going half and half. You'll go one round Town Archers, next round Heroes. Then you can either start off with Heroes or Town Archers and then just rinse and repeat. You're not gonna have to be perfect with the levels, as we see right here. Heroes can be higher than Town Archers can be higher than Heroes, and more times than not, when I'm taking breaks inside of the menu, it's more of I'm either going to be asking a question because there was someone else in the call with me, or I was just pausing to reallocate myself, do better, learn more tips, because the proc cycle becomes three little phases. You have Pure Wizard off cooldown, which is the second proc of Necro, Hunter, Skeleton, Ice Wizard. You have the one where he is on proc, which is, or when he is ready to proc, where you'd run through them all and then proc Pure Wizard. And last, you have the no Pure Wizard and no Necro timing, where you're using Mechanical Ram to push the troops back, while also being able to proc Town Archer to deal with the troops in the little bit of downtime that you have to not get massive rushes and swarms. Dark Assassin you try to use around Necromancer, and Goblin you use as fast as possible because you can never have too much goblin because everyone loves goblin nuts, right? Ha. Yeah, I had to make that joke at some point during this video. It wouldn't have felt right otherwise. But back to the nice ye old ramble of everything and how Astral even came to be in the first place and just how long this journey feels like it's lasted and how much farther this journey still has to go. Yeah, it probably started 2018, 2019. Amino got shut down, the app that I used back in the time to roleplay on. Don't ask too many questions. And slowly but surely over time, I was like, the character kept getting denied because he was like, he doesn't have enough of a backstory to justify how good he is. And I kind of sat back and laughed half the time because I'm like, no, there is a backstory. It's that he had these couple of things go on with him and he has all these stupid, crazy powers because he got severely lucky. And people didn't really like that justification of an answer. And so I had to come up with a more realistic answer. And I'm like, well, he is a part of this super secret government project. And you get to learn from that project on what he's based off of. And they experimented on the original thing of it. And then after they experimented on the original thing, it escaped. And then it found him. And then he escaped. And now he's free to roam across the galaxy. And that's just, no. No, thank you. It doesn't work like that anymore. And to see his slow progression from what was originally not even his name, I probably can't even tell you what his original name was anymore. I can't tell you whether it was always Astral and to be a man among the stars, or if it was based off of my name. Both of which probably aren't correct. And the one that I do know that sticks out a lot is Lee Lord of Time. Lee Lord of Time was the originator and basis of said said knowledge, right? He was um always the quote unquote character behind everything in the scenes in making sure everything aligned together, making sure that the characters were in the right places, or if like a timeline issue didn't match up with the red versus blue stuff, like let's say you had someone from the Chorus trilogy meeting the original Lopez or Dog or Main or that type of stuff, like that stuff can get pushed underneath the rug because of Lord of Time and his broken abilities. And kind of had similar issues in the Ruby Amino in the same way, where it's busted character, broken abilities, timelines don't always add up, and so he was able to steal quote powers from other fictional universes. And these other fictional universes always varied. They were always different, but there were never anything like special, I guess. And I've been doing a lot better now on quote unquote originality, especially because, well, you're gonna have to be original at some point, and you can't just be all one thing and just copy paste everything. There is a reason for originality in most forms of media, and I think I found something creative. Not during the first couple of books. The twist kind of happens at the end of the book, and everyone just gets to wait, and see for the results on that one. But it was about it was pre-COVID, and I was like, everyone says he doesn't have a backstory, so I'm just gonna write him a backstory. I took a second, thought of it, thought, oh hey, how would his story even work and function? And then I kind of took my time with it for a second, and I'm like, okay, what's the direction that I want to do for this or that? Figure it out from the angles that I want to have the story come across. I want him to become a great general, great leader, responsible for several other species and humans across a galactic lifeboat to preserve history and humanity. And now you can only wonder where all that led. And no, that's not a pause for dramatic effect. I wish it was. But it's more of, I am a little stuffy right now. So we're dealing with a little bit of, congestion, drinking water, relaxing while I get ready for bed and just retelling several lost stories. Anyways, Astral in the Inception time, and especially in that Inception time, where it was, okay, well, how do I want him to function as a character? Well, you can do this, and this, and this. You can make him this great leader, you can make him this powerhouse, and you can still make him one of the strongest beings of existence and of the entire world, and he still is going to be powerful. You're the one making the universe, so you can set the power level for his enemies. And now, granted, could he be the strongest being in fiction? I don't know. We'll see by the end of the series on what happens. And that's more of a. That's not even stuff that I've figured out. I've figured out everything in between from the start to the finish of what I want the character to go through, the growth, the arc, and all that stuff. I think right here we use our first. No, we don't use our first lightning here. We use slash. Anyways, I'm rewatching the run at the same time as everyone else is because the live audio does not record through BlueStacks, which means that I should probably start recording these on my phone, but I don't want to record hour and a half videos on my phone. My PC's tanky enough to fucking eat it for breakfast. That's besides the point. I'm getting distracted once again. Again, there's a reason why I wasn't worried about putting a voiceover on this, because I can ramble for 90 minutes without fail. It's not even like a worry or an issue. It's not anything like that. I just talk a lot. It's also a part of my job sometimes too, so I've learned how to talk to people as well. From being a more introverted, quiet kid who was shut in during high school to go all the way to where I am now, you can't argue the results with how I've came this far. I'm much better than I was a couple months ago, and again, there's always room for improvement and growth. I had one of my high school friends. His mother lives pretty much next door to one of the places that I work at, and she was like, me and my husband, we've watched you for forever. We've watched you growing up. We've know kind of what situation you've been going through, and we're just so proud of you. Like, if you ever need anything, always feel free to ask and like let us know. And I kind of told them first power up to 25. And I think it was Arnos who said that your PPUs, or once you use your first power up, you get probably 1.5 times that score. So in theory, this should be 600 trillion, according to that. 600, 700 trillion. Then I was like, okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And I do hear a lot of times that people are like, especially people that know me from real life, are always tell me, oh, hey, you're doing so well for yourself. And I'm always, my exact answer every time, always, and without fail, is thank you. I appreciate it. But I still have so far to go. Just like how in this video, I still have so far to go to learn, to grow, to get better items, and to learn how to surpass the 1 trillion mark. And it always hits home when different people say that. I've heard people say it over to me a couple of times, but when I have other people who do quite literally say, oh, hey, it's been a while since I've seen you and you're doing so well for yourself considering what you've had to go through, it always feels right. But I'm not going to admit that to them, and I also am not going to admit it to myself. It does feel nice to be recognized for having forward progress and actually doing good for yourself. But in the same breath, there's only so much that I can control, and in that same breath of control, I feel like I've done the best that I can. And by the time that this video goes up, I'll be probably going on a coffee date in a couple of days. Not even for like an actual date. It's more of she wants me to do as good as I can for myself, and she's seen me down in the dumpsters and the dregs and depressed. So she wants to try to help me out and to help me learn about myself as well as improve myself. And those types of friends are the ones that you're always trying to look for. The ones that can notice you when you're down, and even when you tell them, oh, I'm fine, don't worry about it, the ones that keep poking and prodding. Everyone needs those types of friends in their life, and I'm lucky enough to have several. Again, not everyone really notices or reaches out about it, but those who do value them. I I don't know how much else to say, but yeah, value them. They're amazing people. I can't argue that at all. And now we're going back to the astral part of it because I can't stay on track for more than 5 minutes. When it came to his original creation, there was this writer at the bar I worked at before like I got this current spot that I'm at now. I haven't seen her in a while, and I don't think I don't really know if she's been up there in a while either. So I haven't really had a chance to see her after I've made so much progress so far already. And she once asked me like, "Oh, hey, do you have like little descriptions on these books?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I can tell you what they are off the top of my head, but I don't have a listed description for them." And so I wrote them down, told them to her one day when I saw her, and then I haven't seen her in a while. Like, it's just not something that's always happening, and like, I'm not always up there anymore like how I was before. Before, especially when I worked there, I was probably up there more than I was at home because I'd work Wednesday through Sunday. I'd work Wednesday mornings and then play darts Wednesday nights. I'd work Thursday all days just to get off and play darts on Thursday nights. I'd work Friday, play darts Friday nights, work Saturday, play darts Saturday, work Sunday, and play darts if there was anyone in there, or I'd go home and relax on my Sunday night. It's nothing too extreme on either side. It was just whatever. I'm not really worried about it. And it actually ended up being good for my own personal development when it came to darts, but it wasn't anything special. It was just, oh, hey, I took time and care into something that I was passionate about and I got better at it. I feel like I can still do so much better, and there's a long room of improvement for me to do better when it comes to it in general, such as like actual just consistency to my game. But for right now, I can't complain one bit. I'm still shooting near the best of my abilities, and I don't think that's going to be impacted or influenced anytime soon. And now that I think about it, I might have a dart league tomorrow, but I'll see eventually. I love how I put so little. Well, no, I think it starts next week. Anyways, Astral and him, and how do I keep falling off the trail? And how do I keep not talking about him? Anyways, not the big issue. Right? Not an issue at all. Astral himself, in his characterization, is different because the way that I broke it up and segmented it and wrote it so far has been probably, I don't want to say traditional or not traditional. It's been in the way that works for me. And I feel like that will always be the most important part. Like, yeah, you can have people point you in the right direction and you can grow as a person, but you can only do so much. You can only do so much. When is the start for this? Oh, it is the 20th. Okay, cool. So it does start next week. Like I said, ADHD brain. It goes Bert, and I can't focus on three things at once. Or I can if I have a lot of caffeine in me and really, really focus. But I burn caffeine like I can't insert like a fire joke, can I? Like how my town archer burned down all of those flying enemies. Yeah. Anyways, Astral and his Ascension, and especially the way that I laid it out first, was super cool. I always enjoyed it. I yeah, I got asked to write the synopsis on like the books, and I kind of wrote very short and simple ones. Like book 1 was all about his personal journey from becoming a regular person to not the fearless leader that you meet, but especially during the middle of the series, but that fearless person where you get to learn him as a character and as a person before you see all of the heroic acts happen. And book 2 is where you see more of or you see the heroics in book 2. He gets asked to participate in a tournament to save the Milky Way galaxy, and he does. He then comes back, defends Earth from an invading force, goes around the solar system, finds a couple of things. Does he conquer a planet in there too? Yes, but that's a hyper ignored part, I guess, is the better way to put it. Everyone, I even glazed through that or past that part too, because yeah, he's invading a planet and he is taking it over. But in the same breath, it's one of those things where he was doing it to get more forces and he wasn't going to just forcefully take it over. He knew the history of the planet and how it was a very leaderlistic and the most powerful rule is all. So he figured if I can be the most powerful on the planet, then they'll listen to me and then I can give them the option of if they want to join me on said lifeboat of the universe or if they just want to stay home. And again, they had their own split. I have the space station drawn up in the little diagrams and the blueprints and all the fancy stuff. And he then finishes off the invading force of his home planet, defends it, takes back everything, and then gives it to the weakest link of said faction, because it was a couple of alien species that all teamed up together. And with them teaming up together, the weakest link falls. Astral gives that weakest link. Some of them join him, others don't. Astral figures out their uses, but he doesn't try to maximize them. He tries to maximize their enjoyment with what they can do. And rather than trying to enforce what he wants and needs for his space station slash the lifeboat, he doesn't do any of that. And he instead wants people to be able to have the freedom of choice and the freedom of expression, kind of that a la American dream that a lot of people hear of. But in that same sense, it's one of those things where the expressionism of it carries more than anything else. Then you get to see him, he wants to take the entire crew, especially a lot of the people who battle, on a vacation. Well, that little vacation planet that he had to the side that he explored years and years ago no longer exists. And so he was like, okay, what happened to it? He figures out what happened to it. It's a robotic army that was just destroying planets and cannibalizing them for its own material. Astral takes down the planet, if that moves on, and that's kind of the end of it. Him and his wife go on a little bit of a mini vacation away from everyone and the space station, while the space station's tended to in kind of the third of the trio of those three. And they go on a vacation. End of it, he gets drugged. He's whatever. He's just out of it and not his normal sorts, but does get saved by his own troops and forces. It's kind of one of those things where I don't want to say a catch-22, but you get to see what happens and how this heroic man kind of doesn't really suffer with addiction. He wants more of it, but he's more or less controlled about it. And it's not like the people around him are going to let him do it either. It's kind of an analogy for myself because of if I were to ever kind of get into that spot where I'd get bad with something along those lines of like drugs and that type of stuff, yeah, you're going to get pulled out of it by your closest friends. And again, alluding to earlier, I really hope everyone has friends like that, rather than trapping you into the same cynical cycle that they're able to pull you out of whatever problems you have. And then we lead to the end of the book, or the next book, the third one, where you kind of see like Ashel has this mighty empire, but then it's all slowly collapsing around himself, and you're asking yourself, can he stay strong against this, or stay strong and save his empire, or will he collapse and fail his goals, not have the lifeboat, not be the savior of the universe, and all that stuff? He, again, ends up doing what he does in that book, and there it is. It's all set. That's the series, guys. I'm gonna clap my hands, dust myself off, pat myself on the back, and that's it. No, there's so much more to it than that. But back to the run at hand while I'm not distracting myself. It was about this time when me and the other person are kind of chit-chatting back and forth, and I'm like, he's like, at 200, he was like, oh, we can get, or it was around 250, oh, we can get 500. Around this point, oh, 500 is going to be too easy. You're going to need to go for 800. And then by the time I get to 500 billion, I was like, you know what? I'm feeling it. We can definitely get to 1 trillion. But, as most of you already know, and that's the spoiler for the end of it, we ended up going back and forth. Again, I'm like, slowly as I play more and more, I slowly get better and better. And then there's times at myself where I'm talking, even though I was in a video call, I still was talking to myself just for that little proc timing before Necromancer and all of them, where I'd count myself down off of Dark Hunter's ability. I'd descend, I'd count usually myself down 3, 2, 1, prop, use mechanical ram, and then use town archers. And it does damage, and it works, and it stalls long enough for you to use your necromancer. Uh, Back to the plight of what I was talking about before. I keep cutting myself off and talking about the actual run itself. I can just never stay consistent with the actual focus, can I? No. Why would Astral ever be focused? It's why Astral can't farm. And even when I can farm, it's only for like 20 minutes to an hour at most. Hey, I suck. Anyways, book 3 happens. You see his empire. Does it fall? Does it not? No one knows because I left that part out in the first place. But all that's known at the end of it is that Astral survives. That's the most important part of it all. And so book 4 kind of takes place like 2,000 years after book 1. Or not book 1, book 4. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you can tell I'm awake. Totally. Book 4 is 2,000 years after book 3. And now I have a bunch of little side books that would fill the gaps inside of those timings. And then I have some that would be before the series, after the series. It is what it is. I have a lot of free time on my hands. By a lot of free time, I mean a lot of time at work where I'm bored out of my mind, where I'm just trying to keep my mind entertained. Which is kind of why the series propped up in the first place. Anyways, instead of being bored at work, it was bored at school. Book 4 is actually where we originated the concept of Astral in his entirety. And it's kind of the enjoyable part of it. It's actually super, super funny, too, that it's Astral that, Astral is one of the key parts that stayed around. And the other key part that did stay around was the fancy little thing about Astral that happens in book 3 now makes itself shown in book 4. He loses a little bit of his memory and he loses a lot of what he has done in the past. He's still got all of his fighting experience and he still has all of his knowledge about fighting because it's kind of, I guess the best way to explain it would be inside of his pocket dimension, when he was always in there, he still has all of those memories in that subset, but those are unlocked until he starts getting access to his pocket dimension again. And then once he unlocks the pocket dimension, figures out his fighting styles and all that stuff again, then you get to see him return back to a normalish state. And then that's all that book 4 is just him trying to find himself back to where he should be, and not where he was at the book end of book 3. Water break. Gotta stay hydrated when you're just talking for hours on end. we once we got around to this point, it was like, oh hey, cool. I also told the person that was in the call with, I'm like, you know what? My goal is to get to the point where damage dealers start costing 3 points per per upgrade, and I'm pretty sure you can all see where that ended up at. But back to the book 4, it's literally all about him finding his own way back to being himself, and by the end of it, he does. And that's the part that I'm up to right now that's currently written. That's kind of a lie, because I have the rest of it planned out, and I have some chapters written for, like, a few of the books. But again, like I said, that's a lie. I have only completed the up to the 4th book. And the 4th book is not currently finished because rather than make a separate book just for his 2 of his children slash his 2 biological children, probably, maybe, I don't know. Well, okay, they are his children, but I'm stumbling on my words. Okay. Anyways. But his 2 children, and it's their backstory that I explore in the end of this book. And I have 2 days to try to finish it before it becomes too late to finish it. Because I told the person that I'm going to get coffee with that I'd have it finished by the coffee date, and I'm still haven't touched it since then. So, I might be in trouble. But book 5 has 2 things that happen in it. Astral, during the beginning of the book, helps a rebellion, and behind the rebellion is like 3 faces. One of them's a mercenary that helps out, and she's like kind of into Astral, but kind of not. But he can't do anything because he knows that he has a love of his life out there somewhere that he's already talked to. Another one's this military leader that has been strategically holding together the forces like string cheese and keeping them binded together so that way none of them really like, or that they have a chance. And then the third part of them is the one that's been funding all of it. Well, the surprise is, you're not catching me that easy. You're gonna have to read that when it gets out. But he fights back, he helps the rebellion, and the rebellion ends up winning because of his help. After the um, rebellion wins, he moves on to his next destination, which is the underworld of the universe slash hell. Kind of fitting that I get to talk about hell while doing a hell mode run back, right? Perfect. Anyways, that's what we like to see. And during that second half, he travels around with one other person and tries to stop something that could end the universe if it got out and escaped. And luckily enough for the universe, Astral and this person are able to take it down along with a couple of other sprinkled in surprises. Then you get to book 6, which starts off differently. Right here we use a ground phase. Anyways, it starts off differently. And the only reason why we have to use a ground freeze is because I sucked. I used an ability wrong, but now I learned. But ground freeze works. Ground freeze is at the end of it, you'll see what I actually did and didn't use, and to see how much more I could have milked out. But we'll hush that puppy under the rug for a little bit. Anyways, book 6 starts off with you meeting this swordsman. He is in a dystopia, kind of a modern dystopia, and basically has to defeat all of these ancient entities that have been around for hundreds of years, and he's able to do it because of having a super secret power that you might be able to discover eventually. And by eventually, I mean if you once it comes out and you read it, you'll be able to discover it. And then Ashel goes to recruit him to have this swordsman help him out in his adventures for the near future. But someone interrupts, and Astral cannot recruit this swordsman. So he goes to a parallel, or actually, he goes backwards in time and does the exact same thing, where he goes to recruit the swordsman, but he's early. So rather than getting the swordsman he had, he's able to adapt and make a swordsman that is specialized for him. And now these two names, which are actually funny because I had it was Apex's first tier 3 push. It was Hoshino, or it was Hoshi. And I'm like, "Oh, hey Hoshi, that's a really interesting name." And I'm like, "I'm a big fan of it." And he asked me why, and I'm like, "That name, it's really unique." And he's like, "Oh, like you like it? Oh, thank you. Like why does it mean so much?" And I told him straight up, I'm like, "One of my characters in my series has the name of Hoshi because Hoshi means star, and the two of the characters are Hoshi Hiro and Hoshi Kuro. Again, discretion advised. You can figure out those names if you want to. I'm not gonna spoil anything from any here on out. I'm just giving the little tidbits, and the tidbits if I can. More water. Refreshing. Take a water break. You deserved it. You've made it an hour into this video. An hour into a run where I started 1x speed at about 20 minutes in. You earned yourself a water break. Don't worry, I'll still be here just rambling along. If you want to take me with you to your doctor's appointments, school, work, wherever you want to go, so be it. Have an enjoyable time. Don't worry about me. I'm just always going to be here with you, for you, all around you. I am every essence that you have ever seen. I'm in the air around you and the walls you live in. Eh, anyways, and book 6 has a lot of traveling around to different planets that Astral just keeps finding. And Hoshihiro gets to face off versus Hoshikudo, and uh, two of them really cool fight. Two of them get along after the fight, and it's a really enjoyable time. And then again, Astro goes to a couple of the other planets, finds a couple of other things, and that's kind of what Book 6 is just a little bit of a more adventuring, meeting the two swordsmen, which is feels like if that's the two main plot lines, then that's fine by me, I think. I don't know if that's 100% of just what those two things are, but I'm willing to hedge my bets that that is all that it is. Mainly because, I wrote the story, so I should have at least some memory of it. And then, Book 7 rolls around. You get to meet a couple more characters, a couple more planets, a couple more power systems and settings and all that stuff. And Astral goes around to the planets, meets people, has things happen, learns more things about himself, and gets to go back to his lifeboat for the first time since book 3. And the little stare down that happens between Astral, Hoshihiro, Hoshikudo, and the others is kind of more of a memorabilic thing where they're all like, oh, hey, this is the intruder that came earlier in the series while Astral was gone before we had a slight suspicion that Astral came back. But now that they knew Astral was back, one of them was trying to tell them that, oh, hey, this is probably the real Astral. But they didn't, I'm not going to say listen as much, but they didn't listen as much. But it was one person that came from the back of the crowd that was like, that exclaimed his name, and that's how they knew, okay, this is the real guy, this is the real deal, this isn't like an imposter, this isn't a shadow clone, this isn't deception of any kind, it's the genuine hero of the story for them. He sets up plans, he travels to the other planets, and then he gets ready for not the. It is the final showdown. Funnily enough, it is. Ha! That's funny. But then he gets to final book. Eh. Final book. For now, without supplemental material. Final book. You get to see his like how do I want to describe it without giving it away? You get to see an ally of his. And this ally only started to exist because of him not existing. Take of that for what you will. And message down in the comments if you have any thoughts of what it could be. And I will do my best to answer even more vaguely. And he rebuilds a society from scratch, gets it all prepared for Astral. Astral shows up and is super impressed. And that's when they have their little meet and greet. They talk about a couple of things. And then once they have their conversations, that's kind of when the end of the series fights breaks out. Bunch of different forces from the past and the present invade. Astral has his forces show up and tries to defend, and then eventually you get to see that Astral actually turns evil at the very, very end of it. And so it takes the heroes all banding together to stop Astral one final time. And do they? Do they not? I don't know. We'll see when I get there. I know, I'm being a real dick when it comes to my story and my storytelling, but I've had it all planned out, and the funniest part is that I don't think this was going to be a certifiable lifestyle for me back in the past. I only, well, not only, but I didn't really, I guess, quote unquote, feel like this was going to be befitting for me. Because back when I was 19 and still working at the one place, I was working a lot, and by a lot, by my standards now, it's not a lot. But by back then standards, working 35-ish hours a week, I was like, oh, hey, this is a lot. And then I have 20 hours of darts on top of it. I'm getting better at 2 skills at once. Man, I'm king of the world right now. I can do this forever if they want me to. And it would have been a fine lifestyle. It wouldn't have been perfect. It would have been terrible. And it's still not the trajectory that I am on now, but it's still not the most desirable outcome. Anyways, it was me working out there on a Thursday night. It was me and the dishwasher, and the dishwasher asked, and she goes, oh, hey, I'm curious, James, what do you do outside of work, and like, what are your hobbies? And I'm like, well, I play a couple of video games here and there. At that time, it would have been like 2020, 2020, yeah, 2020. Would it have been 2020 or 2019? No, it would have been 2020 because I wasn't 21 yet. Yeah, because I still had a year before being, no, because I graduated in 21 and I turned 21 and the years blur together. I'm getting distracted. I'm getting off the point, and we're getting near the end of the run where it's actually the important part of the run that people are going to want to watch. Anyways, last thing before we start to focus back in on the run a little bit. She asked me what I do when I'm not working. I'm like, okay, I play video games from time to time. So this would be around 2021-ish. Yeah, because I got fired before 20 in the year 22. Cool. Anyways, yeah, got fired in 21 or 2021 after graduating high school, and it's peak summertime busyness. Like no. So then I went. It would have been 22. I would have gotten fired in 23, and then had a full year before I turned 24. Yep, never mind. So, um, yeah, peak summertime. I'm removed from college at this point, and she asked me what I'm doing, what I do outside of work, and I was like, well, I have this story that's really interesting. I like to play video games, and I play a lot of darts. And she's like, oh, what's the story about? So, you know that entire rambling session that I did for the last 40 minutes? Imagine that with more detail, more explanations, more names, and more characteristics, and how the actual story happens itself, rather than just the, oh, here's the outline and here's how the main character came to be. The shift was 4 hours long, of 5 to 9. She might have gotten there at 4, but I think she got there at 5. It made the shift feel like 2 hours, and we had over like $4,000 worth of sales that one night. And granted, like, I'm a good cook. I did that all by myself. But it didn't feel like a long shift because I just was chatting the entire time. I was having a good time. I felt in the rhythm of everything that I could ever do. I was doing everything to my maximum possibilities. I did not feel like I was terrible to myself during that time. And it's kind of the big spark that's caused everything to change for me, where it went from, oh, you can cook for the rest of your life, to, oh, hey, you do have a way to get out of this current lifestyle. And is that all about cooking, or can you actually make your lifestyle about something that you want for yourself? And I was able to answer that to myself, especially even more so last, like, December? Middle of December? Yeah, middle of December, a couple of weeks before Christmas. And I finally make that adjustment for myself, and it's been doing wonders for me ever since. I feel like I'm not on top of the world, but at least in a better space than I was, and I'm doing good still. This might be the next lightning. Yes, it was the next lightning. No sense in trying to burn up things when I don't need to, and at this point of the run, I think me and the person in the call were both like, we aren't going to fuck around with it. We are going to get to 800 billion, and then based off of what you have left, we're gonna milk it to a trillion. Because 750 pre-power ups, I guess, like, yeah, sure. Or 750 is when I used the first one, or first major one. Because the first lightning was because I messed up and didn't execute a thing properly. The ground freeze was the same reason, and so that felt like the first power up, and me and him both agreed on it. And it's like, okay, 250 billion to go, and you have so much runway to quote unquote mess up. And this is when I get the proc timing down for a bunch of my heroes. This is when everything starts to kind of align and to shift into place, and I'm figuring things out about the build. I'm figuring out more things. I'm realizing how I can be able to do this by myself, and it just works. It just ended up working. I don't really have any high tier explanation for it other than, I don't know, consistency was key. And being able to practice this run for however long that I did adds volumes to the amount that I can actually do during this run. And it was helpful because a large chunk of it was me doing this at this level for the first time. And there's never anything wrong with trying to learn and do better and gain more experience, especially in a game that I do enjoy playing. Grow Castle such is always fun, and community is always amazing. Granted, the meta is more stale than a sock left on a door, but you know, can't argue with the results. And this was kind of the point where he was like, okay, your original assessment of 1 trillion at 500 billion no longer seems out of reach. Everything started clicking. Everything started doing really good. And once we got to this point, I kind of had the gut feeling of, oh, we definitely have this. Like, there's not a doubt in my mind that I can't do this, and I can't get to 1 million. And a large part of that was mainly because, I don't know, it all felt good. I I have the items, I have the skill points, I have the abilities, and I have the game knowledge. The kind of really only thing that I'm missing more of is power ups. And how liberal do I want to be on power ups? And another thing about those power ups could be um using my the other thing about the power ups is also just using them to my discretion and learning how to use them to my discretion. Because in this instance, we did play it safe with the majority of the power ups. We used them when we had to, rather than just constantly using them or trying to save them for that quote unquote perfect moment. And it works. It does make it more of a passive way to play, and it doesn't really not exploit high skill playing, but it makes it so that way you don't have to worry about it as much. And in the same breath of not having to worry about it as much, you just kind of get a better run out of the deal at the end of it. And in that same breath, being able to get just that much better of a run, can't really argue results for. Especially now that it's a why am I blinking on it? Well, I'm not blanking on it entirely, but when it's such a run in this magnitude where you're constantly trying to have self improvement and then you actually do get it. It's not like, and I haven't been that big of a Helm mode runner, and I've been running the standard Helm mode Town Archers. It's it's pretty much damn near the gold standard, if not just the standard. And again, does it work? Yes. Do I think it works for people and it has way high or way lower of a skill ceiling? Oh, absolutely. I won't argue that for a moment. But in that same breath, this just felt more natural to me. And you can kind of see that because there's my next power up is right there using the using my cooldown instantly. And at that moment, it kind of clicked for me for that one on why to use that. After I used it, I was like, "Oh, you can get 3 procs instead of 2 when you really need it." Who knew that the wheels would start slowly falling off? And we keep trying to edge out as much as possible to just try to survive, I guess is the best way to put it. But try to survive, try to make it to that once was a legendary mark, which is still a legendary mark of 1 trillion. Like, not a lot of runners always make it to 1 trillion. And especially for someone who is generally more foreign to Hell mode to be able to make it to 1 trillion, it felt like a special feat itself. And we just kind of went on the same page of we're going to try to milk this thing for everything we got, and we're going to go from there. It worked, and the results came too. I'm not going to argue about that. Uh, I think we use the sword here. Yeah, because we stay in the menu, we talk about it, and it's like, well, you don't have to use everything, but you do gonna have to use something. I think, no, we use lightning. Yep, we used the last lightning at 880. Yeah! So you have no more get out of jail free cards anymore. So you gotta be smarter. And we thought about this in a quote unquote logical way. We're like, okay, how can we survive and prolong the run without really emphasizing on major things? And it was like, well, you still now are at the you're still at the 900 billion mark. Cool, great, you got there. Well, now how are you going to capitalize on it and prolong everything? Well, that's simple. You have 5 power ups left that are still useful, with one that's more of a niche thing than anything. And your one power up that's niche is currently getting cleared out by a guy named Rico who goes boom. Once the next wave slowly starts to come in, we both make the judgment call of we need more damage and we need it now. Once we use it, it's clear and official of we have our goal. It's to get to 100 billion, and we are not going to fuck that up whatever it takes. We want to break that threshold because someone like me at the current um not current status that I am, like I am a whale. There's no denying that. And being able to do something like this, which is normally a um not a normal thing for whales to do. Like, and especially not for a high paying whale who specializes in waving, in permatab, and everything in between, like, has almost mastered waving. But in that same breath, figuring out a new game mode is just that much more enjoyable too. And now this is the part where I don't want to say the nerves are slowly getting there, but you see that number just creeping up ever so slowly, and you're like, man, you can't mess it up now when you're this close. And we're just sitting there, just going slowly but surely, and just growing and growing. I pop the sword altar. It's enough to help out. And again, why not use the Town Archer one? Well, that only helps Town Archers, and we're no longer a pure Town Archer build. So, this is when we proc normal sword, or sword power up, I think. Yeah, because we look at each other, they don't have their bows drawn, they're aiming at the, oh, actually, no, because we had Necro off cooldown. Yep, never mind. I'm even forgetting what happened to my own run. And now at this point, we only get another 100 billion, but that another 100 billion was still the most stressful of it all. And it still lasts for so long. That's the fun part about these runs. That, like, granted, you're sitting down and you're making a quote-unquote time investment. Like, yeah, sure, you can pause your home mode run during the middle of it, and then come, sit back down, get back, get into the mojo and rhythm of things, like how I was, but at this point, just trying to run through it. We see the finish line. It's 30 billion away. And then we're like, okay, cool. We can maximize this. And we can get to the 100 billion mark and cross that threshold. Pop the sword. Goldhorn goes back on. And look at that number just skyrocket. Man, it's so pretty. It is just absolutely astonishing. It's also a good thing to see too. Once the sword got past this mark right here, usually you don't want to risk Golden Horn, or even you don't even want to run it that long. Usually once it gets past the damage mark is when you want to stop your Golden Horn. Now count down with me. 3, 2, 1. Spend the points. 100 trillion mark. Road to 1 trillion was fun. I won't say it wasn't stressful, but it was most certainly enjoyable. I had nothing but highlights with this one. I figured out what I needed to do for proccing, and I figured out what I needed for upgrades. On top of those things, I also figured out that I do need a couple more things to make this build better. And what good things that I do have could also benefit my waving build. I had a 4 out of 4 accessory just sitting there in my waving build. Or not even in my waving build. It was just sitting around in my inventory. It was a 4 out of 4, and I was just like, well, yep, you can't really can't do much about that. And we keep going, we keep going, we keep going. At this point, the person's telling me, yeah, everything's gonna die in one shot now. Good luck. And I'm like, yeah, we've made it past the threshold. I do not care anymore. This is the point where we quote unquote panic. But we got there. We procced defense, we procced offense, we procced Golden Horn, and this is not the last hurrah because me and him were both like, okay, we got 3 power ups left. How are we gonna use them? We're gonna need to use them properly at some point. We can't just burn them all up and just try to maximize everything. Although the smarter thing would have been to just try to do that and just trust my keybinds, but I didn't end up doing that. It was fine though. It ended up working somewhat. And my angels were on the ground, and they, of course, I just ran out of things. I think they clear through here, and at this point, using a sword would have been good enough, but I tried to use Dark Assassin and Timer and just procced him as many times as I could, along with everything else with Necro, but he just didn't do enough damage. missed it out by that much with a sword and 2 hourglasses left. Granted, we did use one of those hourglasses, but it didn't really affect that much. But yeah, that's the entirety of the run. Rather than being at not being able to get top 75, missed out on 3 gold packs. Last time I got like 80 something red crystals. Missed out on my 3 gold packs, but because I have waving red crystals, does it really hurt me that much? No. But now I can feel freely to spend the dark crystal on my dark elf. And that is the entire goal of Hell Mode. For me, at least. My own personal goal from Hell Mode is to just use it to do better in Infinite Colony. Which means that I can also, if I keep doing these high level runs, buy 10 hours a tab, just for Infinite Colony. And on top of that, put the rest of them into gold packs or reset tickets or everything else and just boost up everything and just keep hoarding them on my account until Red Crystal becomes useless. But for me personally, I don't think it's ever going to become useless. Gold is gold, baby. You can't argue. Gold is good. Gold is gold. And remember, folks, do not buy gold packs. They're a waste of money. If you're going to buy anything, make sure to prioritize the game in-game items that last for a long amount of, or that last permanently, like 13th and Goldhorn. And if you really want to spend money, Calendar is the best bang for your buck, and 3x is almost essential for being top 50. And then after that, if you want to spend, it's always tab, boxes, oranges. Because after a certain point, oranges become useless other than skipping. And after a certain point, boxes become useless because all they could be used for is runes, especially if you like to farm. And at a certain point, you can only permatab for so long. And yeah, that's it. Thank you much for if you made it through all the way. Bye bye.